Are you tucked in? Good. Pull the covers up tight and maybe double check that window latch, just in case. Welcome back to the nursery. I am the creepy nanny. Over the last week, my mailbox has been overflowing. It seems that once you start whispering about the darkness whispers back. I have received packets of police reports, tear-stained diary pages, and frantic emails from nannies all across the country. They all share one common thread: the horrifying realization that they are being watched. We like to think our homes are safe. We lock the doors. We draw the curtains. But what if the danger isn't trying to get in? What if it's already inside? Tonight, I have selected 4 true accounts of invasion and observation. These stories are longer, darker, and vastly more disturbing than our previous session. Settle in. Our first case comes from a police file in Ohio, dated 1998. It details the account of a university student named Sarah. She was babysitting for a wealthy family in a large Victorian home. Sarah writes, "The house was too big for 3 people. It had that distinct smell of lemon polish and old dust, the kind of house that settles and groans when the wind blows. I was watching 4-year-old Lily. Lily was an adorable child, but she had an overactive imagination. She kept talking about her angel. She told me the angel lived in the ceiling. She said he had dirty fingernails, and that he liked to smell her hair while she slept. I dismissed it as a child's nightmare. I wish I hadn't. The night started normally. We played blocks. We watched a movie. But around 9 p.m., things felt off. I went to the kitchen to make tea. The air felt heavy, static. I noticed the fridge door was slightly ajar, just a crack. The light from inside was spilling onto the floor. I knew I had closed it. I checked inside. A block of cheese and a package of ham were missing. Gone. I blamed my memory. Maybe I ate it. Maybe the parents did before they left. I tried to ignore the knot tightening in my stomach. I put Lily to bed. As I read her a story, she looked up at the air vent directly above her bed. She smiled, and she waved. "Good night, Angel," she whispered. I felt a chill run down my spine. I left the room quickly. I went downstairs to study, trying to distract myself. The house was silent. Too silent. You could hear a pin drop. Then I heard it, a creak, directly above my head. It was a heavy, rhythmic shifting of weight, like someone pacing back and forth. I froze. I looked at the ceiling. It happened again. Creak! I grabbed a kitchen knife. My hands were shaking so hot I almost dropped it. I walked up the stairs. One step at a time. I checked the parents' room. Empty. I checked the guest room. Empty. Then I looked up at the hallway ceiling, the hatch to the attic. It was open, just a few inches. A dark, square mouth, breathing cold, musty air into the house. I should have called the police right then, but I thought maybe it was a draft. I had to know. I grabbed a flashlight. I pulled the cord. The ladder slid down with a rusty screech. I climbed up. My head rose slowly above the floorboards of the attic. I pointed the flashlight into the darkness. The beam cut through the dust and landed on a mattress. A filthy, stained mattress in the corner of the attic. There were food wrappers, the missing cheese and ham. There were jars full of yellow liquid. And worst of all, there were photos. Dozens of Polaroids taped to the chimney brick. Photos of the family sleeping. Photos of Lily in her bed. And photos of me, taken from the air vent, looking down into the living room before I could scream. A hand reached out from the darkness behind the water heater. It grabbed my ankle. The grip was strong, painful. The smell hit me instantly. Unwashed skin and rot. A man's voice, raspy and unused, whispered right into my ear. "You're prettier than the last one." I kicked him. I kicked as hard as I could. I fell down the ladder, hitting my shoulder on the floor. I scrambled up, grabbed Lily from her bed, and ran out the front door, screaming into the night. The police found him later. He had been living in that attic for 6 months. He wasn't a ghost. He was a drifter named Thomas. And Lily, she wasn't waving at an imaginary friend. She was waving at the man watching her through the vent. That was Sarah's story. It makes you want to check your own attic, doesn't it? But sometimes, the intruder doesn't hide upstairs. Sometimes, they pretend to be something you love. This next letter comes from a young man in rural Colorado. He writes, "I was looking after my aunt's farmhouse while she was away. It was miles from the nearest town, surrounded by endless cornfields, complete isolation. My only company was Buster, their golden retriever. Buster was the sweetest dog, always wagging his tail, never aggressive. The back door of the house had a large doggy door, a plastic flap that clicked when Buster went in or out. It was around midnight. A massive snowstorm had picked up outside. The wind was howling. I was on the couch reading, and Buster was asleep at my feet. Suddenly, Buster's head snapped up. His ears went back. A low, guttural growl started deep in his throat. I had never heard him make a sound like that. He was staring at the kitchen, at the doggy door. Click-clack. The flap moved. Just the wind, I thought. But then, click-clack. It moved again. Something was pushing against it from the outside, testing it. Buster barked, a vicious, terrified sound. He backed away, hiding behind my legs. That scared me more than anything. If a 90-pound dog is scared, you should be too. I grabbed the fireplace poker. My knuckles were white. "Who's there?" I yelled. Silence. Only the wind. Then, from the other side of the door, I heard a sound. It was a whine. A dog's whine. But it sounded wrong. It was too metallic, too rhythmic. It sounded like a person, trying to sound like a dog. Whine. Pause. Whine. Pause. Buster went crazy, barking at the door, foaming at the mouth. Then, the voice outside changed. It stopped whining and started to speak, but it wasn't using words. It was mimicking Buster's bark. Woof. Woof. But the tone was deep, human, and mocking. I realized with horror that whatever was out there was trying to trick me. It wanted me to open the door for the hurt dog. The lock on the back door started to rattle violently. The handle turned, scraping metal on metal. I ran to the phone and dialed 911. The operator told me to lock myself in the bathroom. "Stay on the line," she said. As I sat in the bathtub, hugging Buster, I heard the back door smash open. Heavy, wet footsteps walked into the kitchen. Slap, slap, slap. They didn't sound like boots. They sounded like bare feet, slapping on the linoleum floor. The thing walked around the house, opening cupboards, dragging its long nails along the drywall, searching. It stopped right outside the bathroom door. I held my breath. Buster was trembling against my chest. It sniffed at the gap under the door. A long, deep inhale. Then it whispered, in a voice that sounded like grinding stones, "Good boy." It left before the police arrived. They found wet footprints leading into the cornfield, but the footprints were huge. And the toes were far too long to be human. Nature has things we do not understand, my dears. But technology brings the ghosts right to our ears. This third story was sent via email from a modern apartment in Seattle. The subject line was simply, "The delay? I was babysitting for the Millers, a tech-savvy couple. Their house was smart everything, lights, locks, and of course the baby monitor. It was a high-end video monitor that connected to an iPad. I was downstairs watching TV. The baby, a 6-month-old named Sam, was upstairs in his crib. The monitor had a slight delay, maybe 2 or 3 seconds. I could see Sam sleeping peacefully in night vision, green and grainy. Around 11 p.m., the monitor flickered. Static cut across the screen. When the image came back, Sam was still sleeping, but there was someone standing over the crib. My heart stopped. It was a woman. She was facing away from the camera, wearing a long dress. She was stroking Sam's hair. I dropped the iPad. I sprinted up the stairs. I burst into the nursery, ready to fight. The room was empty. Sam was fast asleep. No woman, no intruder. The window was locked. I checked the closet. I checked under the crib. Nothing. I told myself I was hallucinating. Lack of sleep. I went back downstairs, shaking. I picked up the iPad. The screen showed the nursery again. Sam was sleeping, but then the woman walked into the frame again. On the screen, she walked over to the crib. She turned around and looked directly into the camera. I screamed. The woman on the screen was me. It was a recording of me from earlier that night when I put Sam to bed. But that was impossible. The monitor was live. It showed the timestamp, live feed. Then, the me on the screen opened her mouth, but my voice didn't come out. A distorted, demonic voice crackled through the iPad speakers. It said, "She's downstairs. She's scared. Go to her." The me on the screen started to climb out of the crib, but I had never climbed into the crib. This wasn't a recording. This was something else, wearing my face. And then I heard footsteps upstairs, not in the nursery, but in the hallway, walking towards the stairs, walking down to me. Mirrors, cameras, they all capture things we aren't meant to see. Our final story for tonight comes from a diary found in an abandoned house in the UK. It concerns a game that should never be played. The twins, Edward and Alice, were sleepwalkers. Their parents warned me. "If you find them out of bed," they said, "just guide them back. Don't wake them." It seemed simple enough. On my third night, I woke up at 3 a.m. A strange thumping sound echoed through the house. Thump, thump, thump. I walked out into the corridor. Edward and Alice were standing at the end of the hall. They were facing the wall, their foreheads pressed hard against the wallpaper. They were holding hands. "Edward? Alice," I whispered. They didn't move. They were rigid, like statues. I walked closer to guide them back to bed. That's when I heard them humming. A tonal hum that vibrated in their chests. I reached out to touch Alice's shoulder. Her skin was ice cold, burning cold. As soon as I touched her, she stopped humming. She didn't turn around. She just spoke to the wall. "We're playing the wall game, Nanny." "It's time for bed," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Edward spoke next. His voice sounded older, deeper, like an old man speaking through a child's throat. "The wall is hungry," he said. "The wall needs a door." I tried to pull them away, but they were rooted to the spot, impossibly heavy. Then Alice turned her head. Her eyes were closed, but she was smiling. a wide, stretching smile that showed too many teeth, almost splitting her face. "You are the door, Nanny," she whispered. Suddenly, the hallway lights shattered, all of them at once. Pop! In the pitch black, I heard them scuttling, not walking, scuttling on all fours like insects, moving across the floorboards towards me. I ran to the guest room and locked the door. I pushed the dresser against it for hours. I heard them scratching at the wood, scratching and giggling, like raccoons trying to get into trash. When the sun came up, the scratching stopped. I opened the door carefully. The twins were asleep in the hallway floor, curled up like normal children, sucking their thumbs. But the door, the outside of my bedroom door, was covered in deep gouges, and carved into the wood, in jagged letters, were the words, "We almost got in. 4 stories, 4 warnings. Check your attics, watch your pets, and never trust a reflection that moves on its own. These stories were sent to me by survivors, people just like you, who thought it could never happen to them. Do you have a story? Did you see something in the shadows that you can't explain? Send it to me. The address is in the description. I read everything. And remember, when you go to sleep tonight, leave the closet door closed. You don't want to see what's looking back. Subscribe to the Creepy Nanny for more true horror. Sleep tight and behave.